Senator Hoven. Senator Luján is next.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Very much appreciate this hearing, and to all the panelists who are here today. Far too many communities in New Mexico and states across the country are terrified about fire season. And it's only getting longer. In 2022, the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire in New Mexico, which was started by the U.S. Forest Service as a controlled burn. Largest fire in the state's history, billions of dollars of damages, cost New Mexicans their livelihoods. I was told at the time that prescribed burns don't get out of control. Very few, less than 0.1%. About 3 months later, we had a second one in New Mexico. Burnt another community up. All because folks didn't want to use the technology that was available, but just wanted to use their hands and their eyes and see if it was warm or not. We all know what happens when a stump catches on fire and it goes down deep. It stays smoldering. It does not get put out. And all it takes is a little bit of a breeze for it to kick up. I'm proud to have successfully led the New Mexico delegation in securing funding in a specific act because of the liability of the federal government. I'm still not happy at the pace that funding is flowing to people back home. That's a whole other conversation that we need to have. But once the fires do start, we have to have the people power and wildfire modeling capacity to contain and extinguish the flames. Mr. Weiner, thank you for calling attention to the Bipartisan Regional Leadership in Wildland Fire Research Act that I and Senator Sullivan and Sheehy and Padilla worked on together. And thank you for your work in assisting us to get this done. Can you speak to the importance of developing next generation fire and vegetation models to support wildland fire management and rehabilitation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your work on that legislation. We think that that piece of legislation is crucial on the wildfire side of the wildfire science side of this conversation, and we should think about how to make sure it's coordinating effectively with the Fireshed Center in this bill. As you mentioned, wildfire behavior is changing rapidly. We're seeing facts on the ground change as the fires are burning, and we have the tools with advanced modeling to get a handle on how things are likely to play out and act accordingly. I think that your legislation and the Fireshed Center in particular can help enable that. I think it's important to also recognize a lot of the cutting edge work happening here is happening in the private sector. And they don't have a partner in the federal government to work on these issues effectively with right now. And so I think we do need to think about how we can enable the innovation happening in the private sector on advanced modeling and make sure that we put those tools in the hands of decision makers at every level as quickly as possible.
I appreciate that. I'm reminded that as a country, we spend billions of dollars improving our understanding of hurricanes and tornadoes. It might surprise a lot of people, but in New Mexico, we don't have a lot of hurricanes. But we don't invest at the same level for catastrophic fires.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. This is a part of America that's just been left out. Yeah. Well, now there's 3 Western senators on this committee, and I don't believe that's going to happen anymore. Mr. Weiner, why is it important that this modeling and technology is developed and targeted for specific regions of the country?
Yes, I think first to your point, on hurricanes, historically hurricanes have been a bigger driver of damage in the United States. And so catastrophic fire as we recognize it now has only been around for a couple decades, and our systems have been slow to respond. A single hurricane hunter costs more than a decade of wildfire science research at the federal level. So we definitely need to catch up in that space.
I appreciate that. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, as regards to different landscapes, I think it's really crucial that we have a regional approach so that we can look at the difference in fire risk in places like Hawaii, in the Great Plains, where there's a very different risk, in chaparral-based landscapes in the Southwest, and comparing that to forested landscapes, all of which have different risk profiles, different things to need to look out for and understand if you're a manager. And so we think it's critical that we take a regional approach to that. I
appreciate that. Well, while I enjoy both beef and lamb, I'll just remind my friends that while cattle graze, sheep mow.
Yes.
So we might need some more of them on these grasslands as well.
Oh, sheep are a big part of it. We're supportive of that.
Well, we should talk about that. Well, I'm not going to get into the pricing of the meat, but I appreciate the question that Senator Bennett asked about staffing. You answered that question. It's a problem. I had a constituent from the South western part of New Mexico give me a holler because she was worried that her husband, who is a wildland firefighter, there was a freeze of hiring, and then people that he worked with were terminated. She said, if a fire happens, is he going to come home or not? I think we need to be thinking about that aspect of this. And I'd ask my Republican colleagues, look, any of you that hunt or fish, invite President Trump out west. Take him hunting and fishing so he can go into these wooded areas and take a look at them. I think we need to get a good understanding of the western part of America so that way we can be working on this stuff. This is common sense. It's not Democrat or Republican. This is about the United States, and the western members have been working closely together. I hope that, you know, those of us that don't know each other well yet, I hope to get to know you. We'll invite you out. I'll take you fishing. I'll take you hunting. But you have to be comfortable hunting with the other person I mentioned, so that's up to you all. There's some other areas as well in recovery, Mr. Chairman. I hope we can talk to you at a later time. I'll submit them into the record. But now that we've had these devastating fires, you know, I've been surprised that only New Mexico and Idaho have the ability to be able to produce the seedlings necessary for recovery here. We need to be looking at what we can be doing in this space so that way we're preventing, we have better tools to fight when this happens, but then we also look at recovery. So I hope that we can all talk about that. And then the last thing I'll say is don't forget about the flooding that happens for 5, 6, 10 years after a fire hits in the West, because it's equally devastating. We need to make sure that all the rules are updating themselves so that, or we can help update them so that people are not getting hurt because of that stuff. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Luján, and I'll accept your invitation as long as it's fly fishing on a stream. Okay. I got to take my dad fishing this Sunday in the Flint Hills for the first time this spring, so it's always a great signal that spring is on the way. You bet. Senator Justice, thanks for your patience. You're recognized.